Hello and welcome to the Tyrant and Training podcast. This is an improv comedy podcast where guests live out their tyrannical, maniacal, benevolent and malevolent fantasies. I'm Kevin Ryan and I'm the host and also the sycophantic supporter of every guest no matter how terrible their ideas are. Today's guest is stand-up comedian Danny O'Brien, whose new show Killa Danjaro has just finished performing at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this year and will also be on tour with it at the start of 2025, so you can check out his website for ticket details on that. Today, Danny is also known as the Danny of Danaland, and here are some out-of-context quotes from Danny himself about what he thought about as he climbed Kilimanjaro.
Whoa, Black Betty. If you need a little dopamine hit of wholesomeness, do some fucking meditation. Put the chickens in the factory, get the fucking eggs.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to the Tyrant and Training podcast everywhere you find podcasts. You can follow the podcast on social media at Tyrant Podcast on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok and Instagram, and for more info there's a website which is tyrantandtraining.podcast page.
You know what's really funny? My uncle for years has been sending that smirk emoji, you know, that kind of cheeky,
yes.
And he doesn't know what it means, and I'm like, stop sending me this. You're 63. It's weird. It's so, every time he sends it to me, it's so unsettling. Like, I don't know if he thinks he's kind of being funny, but I'm like, that's not the correct use of that emoji. Like, no one male has ever sent me that emoji except my uncle. Like, that's disturbing to me.
Now you'd know. It's one of those things like, how would you give a sign that you were kidnapped without giving a sign? And if you get a thumbs up now, you're like, that's not him. Something's happened.
Yeah.
If you're doing this podcast and you are hosting Comedy Crunch, you have the event management company as well, right?
Sure.
So you said you're quite direct, right?
Yeah.
In how you deal things. So you think you're pretty good for, like, you could lead a country if someone said, we're making you one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be massive on writing policies and stuff. I remember when I worked in social care, I used to have to read all these policies all the time, like constantly, and I kind of get PTSD now. But I would try and keep it simple. Obviously, I used to watch this show all the time years ago called River Cottage with this English guy called Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, right? And it was the most
what a name.
Wholesome TV show. Basically, this guy was a chef and he said, I want to live in the land. So he went and bought some land in Dorset and he kind of started rearing his own pigs. He had no experience with anything. He learned everything from the ground up. And I remember going like, this is unbelievable. To this day, if anyone asked me, gun to my head, what's your favorite TV show of all time?
Really?
1,000%. I loved it because I love cooking and I love watching anything to do with food, but there was always like recipes in it. And there's another guy that I follow, top recommendation, anyone listening, is a guy called Old Time Hawkey. And he's on it's on Instagram, and he's been referred to as the most wholesome man on the internet. And he basically lives with his two dogs on the America-Canadian borders, like right up in the north kind of east coast.
Yeah.
And he does these videos where he just makes these like little recipes with his dogs. And he's in like a wood log fired cabin and all this kind of stuff. And it's I love that kind of life. I look at that as well. It's so different to my own life as well. Maybe that's why I look at it so much. But if you need a little dopamine hit of wholesomeness, he is the number one go-to. My friend is a therapist, right?
Yeah.
We went to school together and we went to the Chemical Brothers. I did 100 days off the booze last September to Christmas Day. And I barely drink at all this year because I climbed Kilimanjaro in July. I'm doing a lot of training at the moment. So I basically, drinking is taking the total back seat. I've had about 4 hangovers this year. But I went to the Chemical Brothers sober. And I had a blast. Like, I loved it. And my pal was staying with me and he's a therapist. And like, I showed him these videos of this Old Time Hawkey. And he's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, he just listens to people's problems all the time. And I think it's a very kind of calm, therapeutic. So I think if you're going to have a country and you want people to live their life, he's a kind of great way to look at a kind of a happy work-life balance, you know?
Do you want his energy, or you plan to bring his sort of
energy?
I like
his energy, and I think all of us in general, I'm sure, listen, he has his problems. Living in isolation is also really, really difficult as well. You need to be very mentally strong. But yeah, I think we could all take a leaf out of his book. Like, it's just, I think we all kind of forget the simple things and the simple pleasures. And when I was climbing Kilimanjaro as well, like, the only real thing you're focused on every day is getting to the next stop and food, you know, your food. You really look forward to your food, and you might be climbing up a massive ridge that day, and all that kind of stuff adds up, and you're going, you don't really have time to think about anything else except climbing, going to the toilet and eating. You don't really use your phone. You might take a few pictures or a little video or whatever it may be, but
Yeah.
I think we've lost that simplicity and we kind of get caught up in the chaos of everything. And you know what I mean? Like, even in that Biggie song years ago where it's like, more money, more problems. I totally agree with that. Like, the more you earn, the more you do, the more you stress. And I think if I was running somewhere, I'd try and keep it simple, and that everyone would kind of have a job that would work on a bit of a rotation to kind of keep everyone sane as well. Do you know what I mean? Nearly like a work experience thing. So everyone would kind of do a little bit of everything all the time, so everyone could kind of learn new skills and not get caught up in the monotony of the same thing.
Oh, so it's not like pencil pusher or press a button every day.
Yeah,
You're
and
doing
like
that.
like for example, like they've got this thing where they get pigs, right, and they put them on like kind of wild forest land, and then the pigs will obviously eat, and then they'll like shit, and then the pig shit fertilizes the ground,
Yes.
and then they move the fence to the next bit, and where the pigs were is then where they grow the vegetables. And
Oh,
that,
yeah,
yeah,
sustainable.
really smart. Like, it's this real smart, like, sustainability. I like that kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Where everyone's thinking, instead of like, put the chickens in the factory, get the fucking eggs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's this like massive industrialization that we have of everything. I kind of like this gradual move everything around. One hand feeds the other.
Yeah.
This kind of cyclical. I have a guy I know, actually. This is very random. He teaches permaculture in a place called Sunana, which is off a lake in Guatemala, and he's from Cork. And I went to Guatemala kind of during the pandemic, basically, as we were kind of coming out of it.
Yeah.
And one of the first people I met when I got there was him, through a mate of mine. And like, when you go to, like, I can't describe this journey. Like, I had to fly, had to get a bus, had to get another car. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. The roads are totally inaccessible without a 4x4 or a little tuk-tuk or a motorbike. You can't like drive a normal car on the road.
Yeah.
And I arrive up to this, it's called Gran Hat Tsikin is the name of the permaculture farm. And basically he has all these Americans who want to learn about permaculture. He teaches them permaculture. They get to live their best lives, you know, taking their Instagram pictures, and he loves it. Like, it's so funny though, because like, is an Irish fella charging Americans to pick spuds, which is like the most reverse famine thing I've ever heard of my life. And I remember I met him, and he was like saying, like, basically, you know, we got a couple of goats, and him and his wife were living in this tin shack, and she was pregnant, so he had to build a house, and like, they were literally living in just literally a tin shed. He built a pen for the goats, and the goat pen was nicer than their house, and she's like, here, come on. So then he built like a little like a house for him and his wife. Now he's got a second kid. But then he's like, we take the goats, right? We feed the goats the scraps from all the vegetables that we can't eat, and that fertilizes the ground. And then we move them around, and then we get milk. And he just kept going, it's all cyclical, boy. It's all cyclical.
Take Cork accent on him.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, the first thing, like, you know, getting to Guatemala, and you're meeting this sunburned Cork fella who used to be a herder, just going, welcome to Guatemala. It's so funny, man.
Where's the wife from? Is she from Guatemala?
She's Colombian, actually.
Oh,
she's Colombian. He met her in Colombia, and then he kind of fell in love with Central America, and he's after buying land in Colombia as well. But like, there's a lot of kind of wank kind of, you know, we're here for sustainability, or you got like vegans like, oh yeah, well, they're there with their like leather boots, and there's a lot of like hypocrisy. Like, I try to be a realist. Like, I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time traveling. I'm very aware that I create an eco footprint, but that's how I make my living. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not doing it to, you know, even when I go on holiday, I'm always working in some capacity. Like, you know, I try not to, you know, I try not to wreck the planet in my spare time as well. If I hike a lot, if I find litter, I pick it up. And, you know, I've a diesel Jeep, and everyone's like, oh, diesel's evil. I'm like, yeah, but what about the lithium that like child slaves are pulling out of mines? Like, it's, you know, with all the electric car stuff, I think if everyone can just, like, for example, like, one thing I think that would really benefit the planet, and I would definitely put this in if I had my own country, 1 to 2 days a week we don't eat meat, just to pull back, because the amount of methane and all that stuff is generated mainly in America and stuff like that. Ireland, for all its flaws, my granddad said this to me, he's 91, and he said, like, you know, all this stuff where they're bringing all the laws, like no turf, no diesel. he said, like, we're a green country. Do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in Wicklow, like, and when they take, if you take a tree in Wicklow, it's part of the forestry. They take the trees. They have to plant 100 trees for every tree they take.
Oh, is it that ratio? Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I think is great. And you see it, like, so when they clear a bit of the forest, which they have to, because the trees will naturally fall and decay, so it's a total waste if they don't do it. They do that, and I think that kind of sustainability give people a bit of responsibility for their own stuff and go, try and recycle all the stuff you can, try and compost all the stuff you can. Not psychotically about it, but this like non-stop waste, and a bin is full, so people will just throw their shit on top of a full bin instead of walking 50 meters. What the fuck is wrong with you?
No, I don't.
It's selfish piece of shit.
Or just black bags laying out beside the bins and stuff like that.
Scumbag behavior. I don't care how busy you are, or that you've kids with you, or your dog is tired, that you tie up your dog shit into a bag and then you fuck it. So, like, if you're gonna do that with dog shit, throw it into a load of nettles so at least it can decompose. Don't put it in a bag that it's going to stay in a shit bag for 1,000 years. Because you're too much of a prick to walk to another bin.
If someone did that in your country, are they going to jail, or what? What are we doing with them?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Are they getting out, though?
I've got into physical altercations with people in Dublin for like just throwing litter on the ground. I've been in my car and people have fucked stuff out the window, and I've got up and I've thrown it back in their window. I've no time for it. I'm like, stop being an asshole. There's bins at every petrol station. We're lucky in Ireland, we've got rubbish bins everywhere. Wait till you find another one and put it there, or put it into a bag in your car.
Question: have you thrown in a lit cigarette?
No, never.
Not yet.
No.
Wait for that. Or a cigar. So, but just if you're throwing people in prison on your island for that, are we talking like a week or a year, or good behavior as a day?
Do you know what? I'm so conflicted with the prison system, because I've done a lot of work with prisoners in Ireland. I do comedy workshops with prisoners, and I used to be a social care worker, and the system's absolutely broken. So I think if there was a prison, I would kind of take I'd probably kind of take the Norwegian, Scandinavian approach, where it's more focused on rehabilitation.
Actual rehabilitation, yeah.
But putting someone into a box is horrendous, and it's horrific for people's mental health. Yeah. It doesn't do anything except really, really damage them. And then that person is always going to go outside. The one thing I found working with prisoners as well is they get so used to the system of your 3 meals a day, a roof over your head, you have your bed. They are so lost when they go out into the world. They've no choice but to go into criminality, because they don't know. You can't say to them, why don't you start a podcast? Why don't you get a job in Tesco? They don't have the mental capacity or the social skills to do that. And I'm not making excuses for them, but you need to train them to get into construction, or you need to find whatever they're good at. Like, if you're not into building things, I'm not handy at all, by the way. I couldn't even hang a picture on a wall.
Same as well.
I'm shocking at that kind of stuff. But I'm good at other things. So I go, right, well, if I'm not good at that, let's find something I am good at. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then you work with people and say, well, what are you into? And if they keep saying, like, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, well, then go, well, your sentence is going nowhere until you find something that you are into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And make people, I think my number one thing in life that I think people just need to do is just personal responsibility. That's it. Whether that comes to litter or working or not being a prick, just whatever. Like, just take responsibility for your own life. And I think the easiest thing in the world as well is to make excuses. So I'd be a bit totalitarian on that as well with my country. You know what I mean?
You're not allowing anyone who's coming in with full of excuses going, I can't be doing this, can't be farming.
Poor work ethic, or being a whinge bag, or making excuses. Absolutely not. You need to you're going to have to go to work ethic prison.
What we'll do is, right, okay, work ethic prison, but it's a nice prison, obviously, as you said. We're going to get something out of this. The country that we'll set up, we better put it somewhere in the world. So do you have any idea? And if you want, I can put up a map as well, just to get an idea. If I have a bit of an idea. I travel a good bit, and I'm lucky. I've got to see a fair few places, but I think climate-wise, kind of around Central America would be good, because it wouldn't be like screaming hot. I thought about like New Zealand, right? Right. New Zealand has a pretty decent temperature, but then they've got a massive ozone hole there, right? And it's brutal. I think around temperature-wise, kind of Mexico, Caribbean-y kind of area, where
they don't get lashed out of it with storms too much.
I was going to ask, is it not there where you're getting a lot of hurricanes? I'm going east of Mexico now, but you
I
might be
would go kind of, I'd kind of go and maybe, let me think, because I've been to, down there is really incredible, right? If you go down to kind of Costa Rica and into like Guatemala and Belize and El Salvador, just up
it's
there.
around here, isn't it? Yeah.
They call it the Caribbean side. So that little kind of bottle opener shape there, just
in here.
Up from there. So the other side of around there, because that's basically the Pacific.
Right.
Or sorry, that's basically the Caribbean side.
Yeah.
Of Central America, and then the other side as well is the Pacific side, but you get like amazing like fish and stuff there as well. Those countries are great because you've two different worlds on either side. You've kind of got a Caribbean world on that side, and then you've got the Pacific one on the other side. And like like the rainy season is bad, but it's not horrendous.
Yeah.
The summers are hot, but they're not unbearable. Do you know what I mean? You're not like the UAE or something like that.
Right. Yeah, you can.
Nice weather just makes everyone happier all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want I was going to say with these people on the island, usually I say there's 10 million people as a population, just as a round number, but if you want I can lower it or higher it, is that
No, I think that'd be all right. Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, like,
you're not going to be meeting these people anyway.
Just Ireland and Scotland combined.
Yeah, that's fine, right? By the way, like, are you going to be a man of the people? Are you going to go out and be out in the streets, or are you going to be very secluded?
Yeah, I think I would be, like, unless there was like an assassination or a coup against me, like, but I would probably have my own like little space as well that I can void up to whoever I wanted. You know what I mean?
Oh, you have a house. Yeah, I assume you want a house. Yeah, you have a place of residence.
I have my own house in my own area. That would be kind of self-sustaining, and it would have like people working on it, but it would be for like class events and festivals and stuff like that. Kind of like a Stradbally kind of buzz. You know what I mean? You'd open it up once a year to have the crack, like
around birthday time, last for a week or a month, and
you might just have a big, massive like outdoor like class festival.
Yes,
I work in events, so I'd be decent at that kind of thing. So I put on like savage festivals and stuff like that for people to have the crack. And
a lot of the people everyone who shows up on your island, just say like they're going there willingly, like they're going there in favor of Danny O'Brien. Like none of them are going there planning an assassination. They're looking forward to your big event that you're setting up.
Yeah, I get them all. I try and give them all a decent lifestyle, 4-day weeks. The country has to survive as well. So you'd have to make money and try and treat everyone kind of fairly and stuff like that. Free healthcare. 100%. Basically, I would try and run the country the opposite to how Ireland and America is being run.
So you'd have like RT News and whatever Fox News on, just have a look at what they're doing.
Everyone deserves a home, and I don't think everyone should get a free home just because, like, you know, they had like kids or whatever. I think everyone should be entitled to a home. Others will obviously get priorities. You know what I mean? If you had single mothers or you had the elderly, but like I'm in this myself at the moment. I just got mortgage approval, and like it's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Like forget about climbing Kilimanjaro or any of that crack. It is so difficult in Ireland to buy anything, and I'm not like anything, and I'm in the middle of it as we speak.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm single and I don't have kids, and I've never had any debt.
Yeah,
and I'm barely managing it, and I'm like, how? Unless like I've no like parental money or anything like that coming, I'm like, unless you've got like parents or family who are giving you a dig out, it's pretty impossible in Dublin otherwise. Like, you know what I mean?
I know I rang a mortgage provider.
Mortgage advisor.
Yeah, just basically, just to advise you know.
I have a great one for you if you need a bit of help. If she can help me, she can definitely help you.
She the one I was talking to, I think it was a she. Yeah, it was. Her advice was, well, can your parents give you about 30,000? And I was like, that's not the advice. I could have advised that myself, to be honest. I was expecting a bit more professional. You know, like,
it's crazy, like, and it's like not everyone's parents have that, and it's not fair to ask anyone's parents that, you know. So I try give everyone the ability to buy their own home, or buy their own land, build their own home, whatever, healthcare would be free.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have any. One thing that really grinds my gears is the business of charity in Ireland, where you've got all these like massive charities with CEOs on like 180 grand a year and stuff. Forget about that.
Yeah.
If you want to do some philanthropic work, absolutely. But just try and disassemble the horrors that we all live in at the moment. Like, it's,
you tried to breed a like culture of charity, not a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Charity.
Like, and maybe that, like, I'd be happy, like, maybe not that everyone would give contribution from their work. What I would do is I would let them go, right, you can work 4 days a week or whatever, on the condition that you give a local charity a bit of help for a couple hours a month.
Oh,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
You get an extra day off if you can just find 2 hours in the other 4 days, whether it's an evening or a morning, and you pop in, you help a local charity, you help a local hospice, or you
can pick the charity.
Yeah, because you want something that adheres to your own beliefs,
Animal charity, done. Feed some
yeah, exactly. Like, if you want to go up and you want to help dogs, and but it's, everyone wants to like take pictures with dogs, but no one wants to shovel the shit. Same way, everyone wants to be famous, no one wants to do the work.
Yeah.
So, that's why I think I'm not doing it in a community service type way, but like Switzerland, I've been to Switzerland and it's incredibly beautiful, and they've got this weird. The Swiss are weird though. Like, I don't ever want a country like that. They're very rich and they're very snooty as well. There's arrogance there, but they've got this kind of. In theory, it's great, but it doesn't really filter down the same way anything is in our world. But they're kind of, everything they do is meant to be for the good of the people. Do you get what I mean? Like, so it's meant to be for the benefit. It's like that old Irish proverb. It's called mehel, which is basically translates to for the good of the village, benefits everyone. Right. So everyone kind of, like, I have a lot of, like, my mate's a photographer. He does my headshots for me every year. He always charges me really fairly. In turn, I always give him a plug on social media, and my pictures all over the country. So I like that kind of thing of people helping each other while still making a living. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? Yeah.
It's more. It seems a very relaxed country you're building.
Yeah, just being fair.
Do your bit.
Yeah, being fair and having the crack, and everyone just kind of does their bit in order to have a good life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I do away with any kind of no welfare system, like nothing like that. Like, basically, if you're too old or you're not able to work because you're sick, you would be covered by the state, and that's it, and your needs will be met by that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you because you were saying earlier about the guy, was it in Uruguay, he was the poorest leader, but do you plan on having any bit of
I don't want anyone to be. I don't think anyone should be living below a level of, like, their whatever you want to call it, their Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But like, everyone's basic needs of housing, healthcare, and enough money to make sure they can eat well and stuff like that. And if you want to do stuff like drink and have the crack or party or do whatever you want, you can do that. I wouldn't have any drugs, but I would allow psychedelics.
Okay? Why?
I'd let people, like, if they wanted to grow weed, no problem, or if they wanted to grow magic mushrooms, no problem. Yeah. But the only thing is, like, they have to grow them themselves, and
they have to do the work for it.
They have to do the work for it. Yeah. I saw a really interesting documentary once on food and how, like, food is killing us. I think it's called You Are What You Eat or something like that.
Right.
And there's a nutritionist on, and he made a really good point. He said, you can eat anything you like, right? You can have a burger, you can have an entire apple pie, you can eat whatever. Yeah. The only rule is you have to make it.
Oh.
Because we get this instant, like, I can go out to Mace now and buy an apple pie for $2.99 and just shelf it, or I can buy 6 donuts, or I can go get a burger instantly and eat it.
Yeah.
And that stuff is absolutely killing us. Do you know what I mean? So I like that. You can have something nice, but you've got to do the work, because it makes people appreciate it so much more. And
that's what I was going to say. If they're growing their own weed and stuff,
and there's no additives or anything like that, and like, do away with all the shite food that we're getting pumped into us at the moment. And like, Ireland's changed quite dramatically with that as well. Like, we used to be a very simple country, meat, 2 veg country, and now we're not, and you can see it, like, what it's doing to people. Like, when I was in school, you'd maybe one overweight person when I was in primary school, maybe one. Now it's half the class.
The Chinese foods coming in. Chinese everywhere. And Indian.
Everything's processed. Everything's full of sugar.
Yeah.
Compared to other countries, fruit and veg is actually fairly cheap in Ireland. I think it's not that bad, but you've got to use it immediately. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it becomes a time issue. Like, I love to cook. I don't have the time to be cooking all day, every day. But I'd love to give people that option, that they're able to buy fresh food, cook it, because that's really linked into mental health. Like, if people are working in a job that they like and they're eating decent food, I think there would be very, very minimal health and mental health issues.
And then that's with healthcare, instead of treating the disease, prevention over treatment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're preventing loads of that stuff as well.
You're preventing stuff instead of treating the cure, and treating the disease. And I saw China does this as well, where they make people kind of do exercise. And I think there should be, I think before you start work, you need to exercise. That's part of your job. You've got to exercise for 10, 15 minutes at the start of every day.
Oh, yeah. Stretches and stuff.
It has to be part of it. Like, just, or you do like meditation. I was watching a documentary on a prison in Singapore, very randomly. And they do 10 minutes of meditation every morning. And they play it on the speaker, so no one has any choice, but it's really uplifting for prisoners' mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, even if you do, like, have you ever done something you're like, oh no, I need to do like even 5 minutes of stretching before I go off and do this, and you do feel so much better, or even more awake or anything like that? If you're really tired, then
from working in the Irish prison, I have to say, all that prison does is causes more problems. It doesn't fix anything. It literally.
Would that not be a black hole of money as well, though? Because as you said, it's just like you're not
like it's not working. It's just so Irish. Like, it's like filling an empty crater with tarmac that just goes into space. It's just And they're like, oh, well, we need more prisons and we need more this. And I'm like, this isn't working. Look at the housing situation in Ireland. This isn't working. But they won't change direction. Like, even the fact that our government, the audacity and the lack of awareness of an Irish government to build a bike shed for €160,000 when there's like 10,000 homeless people on the streets of Dublin. Like, that is you can't buy anything. I know, because I'm trying to do it. You can't buy anything. A shoebox, a 1-bed apartment, you can buy nothing in Dublin City, anywhere in Dublin, for less than 300 grand.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that you can buy that costs less than that bike shed.
What was the bike shed? I've seen the picture and all that. What was that? Where was that put?
A bike shed outside the Dáil, where they put tarmac down. They put the rings in, and some cowboy contractor went, lovely jubbly, let's do an Irish Children's Hospital on this, and they paid 360,000, and it got leaked.
Has nobody checked yet, or maybe they haven't announced yet about where did that go?
You should be fired from a cannon for giving the go ahead on that.
Do you think if you, and I'm pretty sure this is legal, but do you think if you just sent in random invoices into the Irish government for a couple of thousand, you'd get some?
There's no accountability. When Iceland's government ruined their country, they put the bankers in jail.
Yeah.
We don't do anything like that. It's like, this is my biggest problem with Ireland, and why I'm going to leave Ireland when I'm older, because I'm not retiring in this country, because it's I love it, but I hate so many things about it. But this, sure, it'll be grand, and no one takes accountability for anything.
No.
Then because there's no long-term thinking in Ireland. It's all short-term thinking, because the governments are in for their 4 years, and then they go, I'm going to retire now with my pension. Lovely jubbly. Everyone's just thinking about themselves. There's no what about what's good for the country for the next 10 years? Transportation from the airport. I saw a tweet where an American walked out going, hey, do you know where the train is? And it just said, he'll learn. The fact that you can't get a train from Limerick or Cork or Dublin anywhere to the airport. There's not even a tram system to the airport.
Yeah.
It's the cost. I live 20-minute drive to the airport, and I usually park with my mates. And then I get a taxi from there, because it's 60, 70 quid for a couple of days of leaving your car. And the car park's in Kildare. It's not even in fucking Dublin Airport. It's another half-hour bus journey to just get to the terminal. The work-life balance is really hard. That's one thing I'd like to take away in my own country. like I work 7 days a week. I have done for over a decade. My side hustles have side hustles. And like, I've no debt. As I said, I'm like, it shouldn't be this hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can make good money in Ireland, but you pay it all in tax and rent and bills and existing.
It does go out the window, doesn't it?
Everything just goes out the window. So you've got to earn triple what you need to even attempt to save anything. You know, and like, I always get slagged. They're like, oh, geez, do you ever take a day off? And I'm like, this isn't greed. This is necessity. This isn't my choice. If I could just do 2 gigs a week, if I could just gig at the weekends and be chilling all week, I'd be all over it. I'd be on about 20 holidays a year, but that's not how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah. This was a fun idea that's gone wildly out of control.
And like, it's, I try to take away, I do a list of all the stresses that I have and that Irish people have, and I try and remove them, you know? But I think it starts with looking after people's mental health, their physical health, work-life balance. I think if you get those basic cornerstone fundamentals in a country, that's right. And you remove entitlement as well. And I'm talking about entitlement on both ends. I'm talking about the higher echelon of the wealthy who are like, we don't need to pay tax. We're infinitely wealthy, who are totally the government, like, who are totally disconnected from the people. And then the lower socioeconomic areas who just feel like they've been totally disregarded. And the government just go, oh yeah, well just give them social welfare. Just keep giving them social welfare. I'm like, that both of those things are broken. On both ends of the thing. And everyone else in the middle is also suffering. And then you've got resentment from the middle to people at the top because they're not paying any tax. Everyone in the middle is paying all the tax. And then you've got resentment going the other way because people are getting social welfare payments and not working. And you're working your arse off, and your taxes are going to their social welfare, or your taxes are going towards richer people not paying taxes. That's not fair. You know what I mean? Like, that's shit for everyone else.
That's very Roman Empire. Great, give them grain and they'll be fine. The poor and the 10 lads up at the top who have all the money, they'll be fine.
It is, and we're living in that. That's what we're living in right now. Like, I mean, you said it, like, you know yourself, like, it shouldn't be that hard to buy a little property for yourself to live in the country you live in. And they just go, oh, it's to do it. And like, come on, like, this thing of, like, you know, like, the children's hospital costing more than the Burj Khalifa. Like, I've gigged in Dubai maybe 10, 15 times in my life. And I'm like, are you joking? And logistically, where they put the children's hospital is, and anyone who's listening who lives out there, one of the most horrendous locations you could ever think. Like, that should have been put out in the suburbs so that people from outside of Dublin can get to it easily. Anytime I even gig around there, I do a gig a couple of times a year, brilliant show in Kilmainham with Colin O'Regan, and I can barely find parking there on a Wednesday night. Like, I literally have to park way up the road by Kilmainham Jail and walk back. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like for people. They don't even have car parking for the staff who are going to be working in the hospital. Like, it's
do they not?
No, like, it's insane. Like, they've like, for the amount of parking that's going to be needed, they have nowhere near. But they also don't have the transport system. So unless you live on the Red Lewis line, which is horrific, like, people bring horses onto it. There's multiple assaults on there. It's brutal. I try to remove all of that stuff basically and keep it simpler. Like, I look at my mate's place in Guatemala, like, where everyone kind of is feeding everyone and everyone gets paid and stuff as well. Like, that's a better life for me.
By the way, just because I'll mention it now, that if you were given the choice of Danny, you can take over this island. It's in Central America. We'll give you, you can have a new name for it and everything else. You can take over Ireland. You can take over Ireland. It was between you and Conor McGregor for the presidency, but we were actually giving you all the power. You happened to win by 1 vote. It was unfortunately very close. Would you stay going, right, I'm fucking fixing Ireland, or would you go, no, screw it, it's gone? Hey, that's what the people wanted, right? So
I don't know. I love my country. I'm very proud to be Irish, and like, but we're armchair managers with everything. Like, I find the easiest thing in life to do is to complain about stuff, and unfortunately, complaining is Ireland's bread and butter. And like,
we're very good at it.
How do we change generations of that? Do you get what I mean? Or how do you change? You know what I mean? It's a very difficult cycle to break. I do a lot of workshops in some of the toughest areas in Ireland, and you're coming in trying to do a workshop, and they can be so hard, and you're trying not to get frustrated with the people you're working with, but you're going, these kids have no chance.
Yeah.
They're third, fourth generation of living in government social welfare state. Like, they don't know anything else.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like, so how do you break the cycle? So I think you kind of have to wipe the slate clean. But I think to be murder, like, because like if you told people who've never worked that they have to work, they're gonna go ballistic. They're gonna start torching stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know?
So
Do you know what I? Do you know what I think, especially for young people with like that? And I know it's very hard. Like obviously this costs money and everything else. But I think one of the best things for that is like traveling. Like get the
yeah,
fuck outside Ireland and see other things.
yeah.
Like
Or do what? Like, Ireland's got a lot of natural beauty. Do like
yeah,
a free Erasmus program where people, like, I had friends of mine over from Guatemala, and I brought them down to Wicklow, and it was pissing rain, and they were like, "This is the most beautiful place I have ever seen."
yeah.
So I think something like that would work really well,
Would
where you get people that would be really appreciative to be there, and it'd be a bit of a change, and then they would learn from other cultures as well. So yeah, I think a kind of an exchange program.
you could do that for your new country in Ireland. You could set up some sort of a fly over some Irish folk here every year and
Yeah,
send them back. Get them working
oh,
here for a month or two.
a million percent. Like, and
Yeah,
like you would work it out. Like, a friend of mine has a construction company in Guatemala, and I said, I'll tell you what, if you had skilled laborers, there's
mm,
never, and I mean never in my lifetime, been more work than right now. I've
really,
never
yeah,
seen many houses and apartments getting built. If you skilled laborers, I said, if you brought them over to Ireland for a year, see, the problem is with Ireland, you can't even rent a house and do that anymore. Like in
yeah,
London in the 80s, you'd be able to bring out, lads would be able to rent a room
yeah,
for 50 quid a week, and they could go work as laborers. They'd make decent money and they could make a life for themselves.
yeah.
Now, if you're a doctor, sorry, excuse me, if you're like a nurse or a teacher, or a guard, like the average rent in Dublin is 2 grand.
Yeah.
Like,
Troll.
and the average wages is 2 grand. So how can you possibly expect
Yeah,
people to live and work? It's like every teacher I know has to do summer camps and stuff
yeah,
just to survive. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, well, your wages go up after you're here for like 30 years. Brilliant. You're 70, you're nearly dead.
yeah.
Oh, great.
No,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
And don't worry, the rent will go up as well.
of course it
that'll
will.
that'll go up quicker than anything.
But like, the worst thing that I think that's happened in Ireland after COVID is that they took away the rent cap. That was the most
Oh
horrific
yeah.
move. Now you're just saying, there you go, lads, just keep going.
Did they have any Did they say why they were taking that away?
No, they just because
They just yeah.
40% of the government are landlords.
Yeah. That's
That's
what I was like. Did they give any like official reason? But it was
No, they
like,
just said,
no,
oh,
we
that was
want.
just a COVID thing. And now what's happening to loads of small businesses that are all closing all over the country, Dublin, Cork, Limerick, you'll notice, everything's closing.
Mm.
And they put the VAT up to 13.5%, and they're making them pay back all the COVID payments that their staff were given during the pandemic. So not only
Really?
so that's why loads of businesses just can't take it anymore. They're like, this isn't sustainable. Three of the
Okay.
longest businesses I know in the city, like you're talking 20 years,
Yeah.
have closed that are less than 50 feet from the door of my comedy club. Three.
I mean, obviously that's terrible. I don't mean to be glib about it, but like that is funny in a. Okay, that's
It's insane.
that's insane.
Like
What?
I'm in an exit strategy as we speak. Like, I'm working my ass off. I've probably got another 20 years in me where I can work at the rate that I'm working.
Yeah.
And touch wood, I can keep doing what I love and just keep working hard. But then when I'm older, I'm out of here, man. I'm renting out my property. I'm gone.
Are you going to Central America?
Yeah, I'm actually going on a retirement recon trip next year. I'm gonna go see how much it
Really?
would cost to live and how much would I actually need, and talk to people who are actually doing it and go, what would I need per month to live
Yeah.
here?
What
Because
are,
I'd at least do 50-50, like half the year in Ireland, half the year away.
and what is the likelihood that you'll end up in Guatemala in a small piece of land beside the Cork
Oh,
Fringe?
very, very, very high.
There's a
And like,
decent chance you could get into that.
and I'll regress. I'll go backwards. Like, I'll be living in a small little place. I might have a couple of little fruit trees outside and get down to the local bakery in the morning. Like, that's what I'd want to do with myself when I'm out there. Just get out, buying your fruits and veg, having the crack with people, having a laugh, maybe having some mates over for dinner, having the crack, doing some hikes, going for a swim. Nothing. I don't want to do anything that's gonna be. I don't want to be like, I want to be rich and I want to be this. I just want to have a bit of disposable income to do stuff, have a good time,
Yeah.
give back to the community that I'm a part of, which
Yeah.
is a massive issue with people moving to poorer countries is that they give nothing back to it.
Yeah.
They jack up the rents and they live there and they avail of the cheap food, the cheap drink, the cheap rent, the great weather. What do you give back to that community?
Yeah.
You know, and like, or if you're going to do that, if you're a digital nomad or whatever, and you're living in a place, you should have to give a small percentage of a tax or whatever to the country that you're living. That gets contributed into the wider demographic to help that country sustain, because you're profiting, you're leeching off their poverty.
If a lot of people went to your island and then they started working as digital nomads, you'd enact that, right? You'd say you have to give.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Whatever it
is. If you're here, you're contributing.
You're here. Okay. Yeah. Well, do you, since you're moving over from Ireland, what is the name of your country? Would you name it after yourself?
I probably wouldn't know. I'd give it more of a generic name. I think that's a bit it's a bit egotistic and narcissistic.
You wouldn't go for that. You wouldn't go for it. Like, now that is your like one chance to be a bit narcissistic. Danaland, Danyland, surely, no?
Yeah. I think Danaland sounds a bit better.
It has a more musical tone to it.
Yeah.
Like,
whoa, Black Betty,
Danaland. Oh my God, there's the anthem. There's the theme song.
Yeah.
Imagine the rugby team coming out to that.
Yeah.
Do you have any official title?
No, I think I don't like any of that Lord stuff. Is horrible. Like,
you wouldn't go the royalty route anyway. No.
I'll just go, just whatever. Just the owner. Just go. I think the thing would be sound and have the crack, or good luck.
But like, would you just have people call you Danny? Like, you know, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I hate being called Mr. O'Brien or anything like that. No, I'm not about that at all.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, a lot of people pick titles, but they never have to. Do you know what I mean? When I say like, "Oh, what title do you want?" Some people go, "Oh, I guess King or something." Like, you don't have to.
No, I'd like to be like your man in Uruguay, who's just had the crack and like he didn't get a salary or anything like that. It's
question. Did he get voted out?
Yeah, I don't know. He went to jail as like a political prisoner and stuff as well. But like, I just want everyone to just enjoy it, live a decent life, and as well as that, like, I think if you complain, if you're getting all this stuff and you're still not happy, you know that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
So if people moan and they're unhappy, I'd just deport them. I'd just be like, best of luck to you, good luck.
Forceful deporting. Are you taking their family with them, or?
Oh, well, like, I'll just go, listen, you're doing, here's a couple of options for you. And if you don't want any of them and you hate all of this, there you go. So
if there's an 18-year-old who's a bit of a grump, you're just not going to share, and he's like, "Oh, I hate this place, stupid, fuck Danny." Trying to be a bit edgy, do you know, 18-year-olds.
Yeah, well, I'll say, why don't you fuck off somewhere else and go work and see how you get on?
Oh, fucking make me.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I just have
a punch up at the 18-year-old.
Yeah. You just a couple of body shots from the police, stop resisting, and then put them on a plane, send them off with enough money to get them going if they need. I wouldn't leave anyone destitute.
Yeah.
Let them go off and work and stuff, and see if the grass is greener.
Back to Tipperary.
Listen, every country has their struggles. Everywhere I travel, I think, wow, this is amazing. I'd love to live here. But when I'm lucky because I don't really go on holiday. I go to work. So I get to meet people who are living in these countries. And like, for example, like you might go, oh, geez, I'd love to live in Barcelona. The average wage in Spain is only like 1,200 quid a month. Do you get what I mean? Or I'd love to live in Portugal. Like Portugal's like 800 quid a month. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all great to say I'd love to live here, but like, after rent, if you have 200 euros a month, all you're doing is going to Lidl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. If you went out for dinner, like that would wipe you out for the month.
It's
great.
That is when you go on holiday. Because I've been to holiday to Portugal once and loved it. Lovely holiday. But like, it is something like, as you said there, if you want to live there, you need to, if you're planning on if you're planning on moving into Portugal, so the holiday was fantastic. Maybe you should go another time. But don't go on the lash when you go over.
Yeah.
Try and maybe meet people and chat to them about, as you said about you planning on going over to Central America on a bit of a scouting tour.
Like it's
go on a scouting tour.
Stay with your pals.
Yeah.
And kind of get a bit of insight. That's what I do. Like I see how they live and go, would I live like this?
Yeah, you'll never get a full until you actually move there. You never get a full view, but you get a better idea.
You're not going to retire in a hotel.
No,
you know what I mean. You want to be staying with your mates. You want to be going to the supermarket with them. You want to be maybe going out for dinner with them. You might want to go to a local bar, have the crack.
Yeah.
Do like just do local stuff and go, could I live like this? And if the answer is yeah, and then sit down with them and do some real maths, real talk, and go, how much do I really need? And hit me with everything. Healthcare. So for example, like if you move to Central America, you're going to need some decent healthcare.
Yeah.
You're really going to need some decent healthcare, because if something goes badly there and you get really sick, you're screwed if you don't have private healthcare. Like you're done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, public.
The healthcare system is shot. I mean, look at us. We're a first world country.
Yeah.
And our healthcare system is in the absolute toilet. You literally have to be dying in Ireland to be looked after. Now you will be looked after, but it's brutal. Like, you know, old people being left on trolleys and all. It's horrific. Like, really horrific. And the nurses and doctors under like the worst amount of pressure. You know, for like, my mate's a nurse, and I remember like my mate's been upskilling himself since we left, you know, since we're in school as a nurse, and he's a really high up nurse in a private hospital here in Dublin. But, like, his wages are shite, like, for the amount of work he does, and I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, this is, you know, like a doctors and all are well paid, but the nurses are paid grand, but it's just grand. Do you know what I mean? So
it's not for the amount of work that they have put in, not even on their shift, but as you said, training.
It's 24-hour shifts and stuff, like bad stuff. Like, so, yeah, I just think fair work for fair pay.
Do you know on Danaland, is there anything kind of like an everyday item or everyday thing or a kind of mundane thing that it would be banned? Anything that you decide, no, we don't need that?
Vapes, 1,000,000,000%. Straight
to smoking cigarettes or nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably ban both, realistically. Like, it's not. It's only gonna kill everyone, man. Like, like I used to have the odd smoke when I was drinking. I get it. Yeah. But after a couple of years of it not being there, people would just move on to something else. But like vaping, telling you what, in 20 years' time, I've mates of mine who've gone straight to vape, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And they'll go, I find it calming. Do some fucking meditation. Go to the gym. Go for a walk. Go for a fucking sea swim. Go to Tesco. Jump on a Calm app.
Yeah.
Stop putting that shit in your lungs. Like, are you joking? Do you think there's not going to be some serious long-term consequences from this? Oh, it's just water vapor. Are you joking? Have you seen them making this shit in the factories?
Yeah, there is no way in 20 years' time or in whatever many years' time we're not going to be going, oh, actually, they're horrendous. They're worse than sticking.
COPD is one of the worst ways you can possibly die. Like, I've had family members pass away from it. And it's basically your lungs just slowly stop working. You're just slowly suffocating yourself to death. I remember when I climbed Kilimanjaro, your oxygen drops down to about 75%.
Yeah.
After a couple of days. And when you summit, your oxygen's 50%.
Yeah.
And it's mental. It's kind of like being a bit punch drunk. But if you get it, do you ever notice when you get out of a tent, it's kind of exhausting? Do you know what I mean? You know, when you get out of a tent, you're always a bit like, Jesus. It's
yeah.
Just a bit of a kind of an effort, I suppose. I know that sounds weird. But when you get out of your tent in Tanzania to go to the toilet, which is outdoors, obviously it's just like a little zip thing with a plastic yoke. But like when you would walk, say, 10 feet, just doing that little run because you have to pee, you're knackered, like you're absolutely...
Really?
Because your oxygen is so low.
Yeah.
If you vape all the time, that's what your future is going to be like, because all your air sacs are going to be completely screwed, all your alveoli in your lungs are destroyed. So you've no quality of life. And if you've ever seen anyone going around with like the breathing thing with them, they're so exhausted all the time. They go to the shop, they have to go for sleep in the car for 2 hours. I honestly wouldn't wish that life on my worst enemy. And the fact that people are doing it to inhale like custard and bubblegum flavored vape is like, lads, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I've more respect for smokers, like, you know what I mean? Like, at least they know the crack, like. And also, if you're having 1 or 2 cigarettes a day, a vape that people go through in a day is the equivalent of 50 cigarettes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know if you're banning at least vapes or possibly cigarettes then as well?
Yeah.
Do you know in the pubs in Danaland?
Yeah.
I imagine there's still, I don't know what you'd call them then, I guess just outdoor areas, but like smoking areas, because I find a lot of chatter happens there.
Yeah, I just make outdoor areas better.
Yeah. You don't need smoking
I
for it,
put a few
but
games or something out there. I put free darts or I do whatever.
yeah, it
And
look
people
well.
go out, have a bit of a mess and have a bit of a laugh.
That's the thing, because there is obviously the fact that there's 40 people outside in a pub, outside in the smoking area, and there's smoke everywhere, and half the places aren't even
You know what I
ventilated.
put out there? And it brings people together. I put a giant fire.
Oh, a good fire with the seats around.
And I'd have everyone, and you can take turns, you can sit around and have the crack, and like
Yeah.
that is a much more social,
Oh
safe
yeah.
thing to
Yeah.
have, and it's part of your caveman DNA as well.
Do you know if you're doing that in Central America though? Is that you're
Yeah.
sweltering, no?
Yeah, but it's it doesn't have to be blazing, and it gets cold at night as well.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. As long as yeah. No, but yeah, as long
And
as
it
they're
keeps the
kept there,
mosquitoes
then
away. So you're
wonderful.
sitting around in your shorts and you're having a beer. It's nice. It's calm.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool. So you're banning vapes and stuff, and also, do you know what I hate? And I think I was in London, I think recently, and I did notice it on the bins. But you know the little tags off the vapes that people stick to the front. The fuck is that about?
I know, it's ridiculous. Like, as well as that, do you know what I think I do as well to incentivize people? Because I get really bad hangovers. Like, so that's why I don't really drink much anymore, because my hangovers are just, I love pints of Guinness.
Yeah.
Or if now Cork, I'd have a load of Murphy's or maybe Beamish. But like, I love creamy pints. I love them. Like,
Right.
I would drink like 10 creamy pints, no problem. If the Guinness is flowing, like, I just like give it to me. But I've now off button. Like, once I'm into it, I keep going. And I never drink a pint of water and like that. So what I would do to incentivize this, I'd give everyone free spice bags or snack boxes like Chicken Hut on the way home.
Oh, here.
On the condition that they drink 2 pints of water. So if you drink 2 pints of water at the bar, you get a token. You get a free snack box on the way home.
Oh, that's lovely. But you might have lads coming in sober, just drinking two.
Doesn't matter. They're staying hydrated.
Cool.
It's good for them. They deserve it.
Fucking wonderful.
Yeah, I think that'd
be very good. Yeah.
That would be I used to I worked in addiction, and we used to do a thing called harm reduction strategies, which was how do you reduce the harm of addicts. So it could be something as simple as if people are burning heroin in a bottle cap, they would give them these ones with a little handle on it, like a little frying pan, because that would stop them burning their fingers and burning their fingernails off. So you're not going to stop them taking the heroin, but you will stop them injuring themselves.
Yeah, you might as well do some bit of good anyway.
So I like that kind of process of harm reduction, and like, if people are on the lash as well, you'd make them like have a cold shower or something, or you're allowed to go on the lash on the condition that you have to go for a sea swim the next day, like that kind of thing. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, yeah, little things like that that'll get.
Yeah, so like little things like that, like you want people to have the crack, but the problem is in Ireland as well, we all go in the piss and we get wrecked, and you smoke 20 bags and you have pints and then you eat loads of shit, and then you're broken for 3-4 days, and then you eat shit then when you're hungover, and you're in this cycle then of depression, and you're doom scrolling social media, and you're lying there watching, you're always just getting I'll go to the gym tomorrow, and it never ends, because it takes about 3-4 days for that session to get out of your body, and then suddenly, guess what? It's the weekend again.
Yeah, we'll do it again, lads.
It's a birthday, it's a wedding, it's a divorce party, it doesn't matter. So I would try and break that cycle of that's a bad part of our society in Ireland is there's no reason to stop drinking. You're like, the weather's going to be shite anyway, so we might.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think it's the weather?
It is.
No, I don't want to blame just the weather, to be fair, because there's
but if you know that's going to be a belter the next day, we never know in Ireland. It's guess who with the weather,
But like then, like I've been to a few different countries, and it always feels like if you're going out for a drink in Ireland, you're going out to get drunk. Like that is the point of going out. Obviously to have the laugh and whatever, but it's going out to we will get drunk tonight. And we
need to culturally shift that. And my
other countries are just have a drink and relax.
Yeah. My gym owner's from Mayo, and he said the hardest thing to do, and I'm really I'm off the drink now. I'm doing a tour in Asia, so I'll have a few beers there, but that won't be mayhem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I had a few pints on my birthday, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. I've just felt like shite. Like, so now I'm just off the booze. I've no issue with it. I'm in Berlin next week doing shows. I'm in Prague. I don't care about not drinking. I really don't. Like, some people are like, what, you're going to think? I'll just have a non-alcoholic and I'll go see some stuff. I'll have the crack. I might go to a gig or whatever. I'm working anyway. Yeah, like I think this perpetual session kind of cycle that we're all in Ireland. Like it's really damaging to us,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's shit because it's part of our culture as well.
Do
So
you
we need
there is, especially when you're younger, you do kind of
younger
get
people
put
now
into that
don't drink
pressure.
anything like we did. They don't drink anything the
No?
way we did. Nowhere near. They're much more on the ball than
Yeah.
we are. I think they've just seen it from their parents and stuff, but it's too expensive. It wasn't expensive when we were like 18,
Yeah.
19. You could afford to go on the piss even if you're working in a minimum wage job. Now you can't do that. But I remember my gym owner saying to me, like, the hardest thing to do is have 2 pints and walk away.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I'd usually drive, so I have none.
Yeah.
But if I am out, but the problem for me is after I have 2 pints, I'm like, oh, let's get another one. And like,
Yeah.
trying to break that cycle of, nah, listen, I'm going to have a water, I'm going to have a zero. And I have done that.
Yeah.
But I think 2 pints for me, nothing good happens after 2 pints. It just doesn't.
There's always a moment on a night out, not even a night out, but when you are having a few drinks, that you are thinking, if I have one more, then I've committed to,
Yeah. And
I'm going to be spending
there's
too
2
much.
hours where you're really having the crack.
Yeah.
Probably half an hour after the first pint, and then in between, say, the third and fourth. You know that there's probably 2
Yeah.
hours. If you go out at 8 o'clock, 9 to 11, it's probably the best crack you're going to have. After 11, you're going to be steamed. After 12, you remember nothing. After 1, forget about it.
You're trying to stay standing so you can get home.
Yeah, and then you're destroyed for 3 days. Like, and
Yeah.
for me, it's just not worth it anymore. So but I love music, and I understand that pints and music and crack are all integrated with each other. So I try and find that balance of have a couple and try not get wrecked.
Do you know with Danaland,
Yeah.
you were saying with all the people there and they're all supporters of you, you didn't want to deal with the kind of mundane admin side of policy, right? You don't have to, you don't work out every little detail. So you would have people doing all that for you, like figuring out the road systems, blah, blah. Would you say there's no voting in the country and you'll just have your own inner council of people, like you select 10 people that you know, or would you have voting for like a senate of 100
I'd have people working with me who had empathy and you know, had a background in working with people, like maybe people who worked in the social care or nursing area because they are naturally caring people and they're not in it for themselves. So I don't know if I get into democracy. I just try and keep it a very fair, sustainable country. But if
the people who are there, like if you say no democracy, you're not allowed to vote on this, I'll handle it. Like they're okay with that.
Yeah, and I kind of be like, well, what are you voting for? Do you get what I mean? Like, like you've got everything you want here, and if you're unhappy about it, I just go leave. If you're making massive effort to make everything kind of fair, not in a total socialism, but if you want to make more money, you can work harder and make more money.
Yeah.
If you want to do less, that's totally okay as well. Your basics will be covered, but don't moan that you don't have enough money. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, you're just creating a baseline of.
I'm creating a fairness baseline where people are able to look after themselves and have a good life if they work, and if they don't want to work so much, they can have a good life, but like they won't be able to buy certain things because you need to work harder to get that. Like, so I keep it fair. So if there's uproar over fairness, then I don't want you in my fucking country.
So you're keeping it fair, and if they want a voice in government, they can fuck off, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, well, I know I'd let them. I'd have like local delegates like looking after stuff,
right?
And I'd be like, if there keeps being problems with certain areas, I'd just put it back onto them and go, well, what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
And if they go, well, I do this, like, okay, right, well, you do it then.
I want vapes.
Yeah, I'd literally take the person who's given out about everything.
Yeah.
And I'd go, it reminds me of this fiddle player I know. Super talented fiddler, right? She's incredible.
Right.
And she was in a bar, and the barman was just being a bit shitty towards her, like, oh, fucking musicians coming in here, you know, you're getting paid to just play a fiddle, right? And she's been playing fiddle for like probably 20 years, knows over 1,000 songs.
Yeah.
In her brain.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you fucking, and then she just went up to the bar, just goes, hands on the fiddle and goes, you do it then. And he goes, no, and she goes, you do it. And it just totally, and I like that. You know what I mean? If someone's like, I get that with comedy, they're like, oh, you're just stand up telling a few jokes. I go, all right, you do it then. See how you get on.
I will tell if anyone is listening who may have the same opinion. When I was in college, a friend of mine said, oh, I'm doing an independent film, right? And I need actors and stuff. And I said, I've never acted before, but fuck it, why not? I'll give it a go. And in the scene, so it was like I was the best friend character, right? It doesn't matter. I was in the small little town. And I read the script and I was like, okay, that's grand, I'll do all that. And there's a bit in it that says like Kevin is sitting in a pub and he sees open mic night,
Yeah,
and he goes does that. And the next scene, then Kevin does it, people boo him because his jokes are rubbish. And next scene, and the guy rang me and he said, "Oh, we're filming the stand up thing tomorrow night. We have a pub there. You'll come
yeah,
out and you'll do that." And I said, "Yeah, fine, no problem." By the way, in the script, it just says Kevin tells bad jokes, people laugh at him. That's
yeah,
it. But like when we're filming it, I have to tell jokes. So like, do you
yeah.
have?
Let go.
And they said, no, 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 we thought you'd write out those jokes. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's being filmed tomorrow night. Yeah. And
Yeah.
how long are we planning on filming this? About 5 or 10 minutes. So I was like, you want me
Oh
not
man.
a comedian, not a comedian,
Yeah,
that's very hard work to suddenly come up with 10 minutes of material. And I
yeah,
imagine if I said that to you, you're like, oh, that's ooh, good luck.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
terrifying. And I had an audience of people who knew this was like a scene. Like
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
were.
have to,
Yeah,
they were in on the this isn't real. And I was terrified. Absolutely. As soon as I stood up there and they went action, I was like, this is the most scariest thing I've ever done. Fuck this, right? That's the end of my comedy career. So yeah, anyone who says adds a few jokes, you're like, you don't, that's not even getting into the mechanics of actually like
like
doing.
everything is hard. Like being a mechanic, it's all skill and it's all learned. Like so. I don't think anyone's job for granted, but if there was any whinging about whatever, I'd go, all right, you do it. Then you have everything and you're still pissed off. I'd just be kind of, again, just personal responsibility. Look inwards. Usually when people have a go at you in life or online, it's because they're not happy with themselves. That's 99% of the time. If someone's being a real prick,
Yes.
it's because they're just not happy. And I'm always just like, look inwards. Like do a bit of work in yourself, like you know what I mean. And then if you're still angry, if you're totally cool and you've gone looked at it objectively and gone, yeah, that person, whatever. Like I got scammed at the Edinburgh Fringe last year, and I was fuming about it. And like
Yeah.
I filmed a documentary about the guy, piece of shit of a human. But I also just moved on with my life as well. Do you get what I mean? Like you can't stay
Yeah, you
angry at
can't.
everyone else forever. You just got to get on with things. Like it's now similarly, I didn't let it go, and I've been going after this guy, and it's coming to a head now. So he'll be dealt with. But
Sweet.
you can't let things go like that either. Do you get what I mean? But also you can't let things consume you. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's all right to be upset about things. So if someone's pissed off that they're like, I don't like my job in my country and I'm this, that, and the other, I go, that's okay. But what are you doing to change that?
By the
And
way,
if they,
oh sorry, you don't go ahead. Sorry, I was
yeah,
interrupting.
so if they're not willing to make any effort and they're just like fuck you and this, that, and the other, it's
Yeah,
all right. We'll just fuck off then.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
You know what
water
I
off a
mean?
duck's back.
If you're not willing to take any responsibility for this and you don't want to contribute, even though you're living in like arguably the best country in the world, but like some people will never be happy, and that's the problem. And it goes back to that wherever you go, there you are. That's it. Like
If you have someone called Jim who is
yeah,
constantly complaining about, oh, fucking anyone could be Denny O'Brien. Jesus, it's
yeah,
not fucking hard to stand in
yeah.
a fucking Central American country, blah, blah, and rule it. Would you at some point say, right, you fucking lead the country
Yeah, I
now, see
would.
how you do?
I people moaning at me at the Fringe, and I do 3-4 shows a day,
Yeah.
and they're complaining. Oh, I'm so tired, and I'm like they're doing like one
Wait,
gig,
is
and I'm
this the
like,
audience?
no, 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 like
Oh,
other
okay.
comedians or whatever. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, you're so like, yeah, I'd love to have your life. And I'm like, you've no clue. Like, I literally work 12 hours a day minimum every day.
Yeah,
Every day. I'm not just saying that. Like, I get up. I was in the gym this morning at 8.
yeah,
I got back at 9. I did this podcast with you. I'm doing workshops this afternoon. I'm hosting my comedy club tonight. I'll go in and set up at 7. I won't get out of there till 11. I'll get home at 11:30.
yeah,
That I get to bed at 12 if I'm lucky. Then I get up tomorrow morning and go to the gym again
yeah,
and then do my stuff admin all day. Like that's my life. If I'm gigging away at the weekend, I then have to leave 2-3 hours early and drive to wherever I'm gigging, drive all the way back, or I'm flying somewhere, flying all the way back. Like that's and I'm putting up a video every day and content every day. So when I hear people like complaining, and it's the same with my country, if they're like, oh, I go, all right, well, here, come on, you do it. Literally, I'd give them the fiddle and I go, here, you fucking do it then.
Do you know what? I'll answer in a sec. But the other thing as well, with the whole, with you working and doing that, like with the hosting Comedy Crunch and the event management and
Yeah,
stand up in general and all that, like it's not. No, I could be wrong. I'm kind of assuming. I'm even going off of when I was doing like Twitch for a while,
yeah,
where because you're doing something that's quite social, it's not even just a, oh, I have to travel there or I have to organize this, but you're you're constantly like your brain is constantly switched on because you
Yeah,
can't
you're
show up.
on.
You can't show up and host something and go, God, I'm wrecked. Anyway, sure, this fella's all right. This has to be the greatest show that you'll ever
It
see
doesn't
that
matter
night.
how bollocks you are. Yeah,
No,
like
no, no.
I was nearly falling asleep in a chair, but you've got to put your game face on.
Yeah.
Like it's like a match. Like you just got to suck it up and go right. Do you think that if you played a game of rugby, soccer, hurling, whatever against someone, do you think the other team cares if you're tired?
No. You
So
have
like
to
that's
be.
that's the way I look at life. Like, or if you tell your teammates, I didn't get a great night's sleep last night, well then they say you shouldn't be on the pitch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's my country in a nutshell. Do you get
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And
your sports teams have no subs.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
fucking there to play.
I'm gonna call my next show "No Subs."
No subs. That's the subscribers. So if Jim is saying, all right, I will take the fucking leadership here. How long are you giving him?
I'd probably give I'd give him 72 hours.
Right, 72 hours. I'm in control of this fucking country.
And I'd go let you know, I'd set it up in such a way that he wouldn't be able to make any dramatic decisions, but I would let him see what it's like. Okay. And then I'd say, you know, and what are you going to do about this? And what are you going to do about this? And what are you going to do about this? Because they would just collapse. Like, they'd just be like, wah! They'd have no clue.
Okay, hit me with one question there, just so I know. Because if I'm like, I want to bring vapes in, and you're like, can't do that. That's too big of a deal.
Or yeah, if they said like, right, well, you know, we need to
execute you.
We've got food production is low and such and such. What are we going to do? Oh, I don't know. And well, you can't use that because you've got no budget left.
Do you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to hire people to deal with it. I'll give them loads of money. I'm going to give them a mansion. I'm going to give them a mansion on the south side of the island, and they'll deal with that.
That'll take more than 3 days to be processed, so he doesn't have the option. He needs to make a decision.
Oh, I will tell him. I'd execute them. Execute them for treason.
Yeah,
done.
Yeah, I don't think I'd give him if he's only like covered for a couple of days. I don't think I'd give him. I don't think I'd give him executioner rights.
He wouldn't be able to arrest you, basically, as well.
Jim just commits. Like, I'm there trying to make a point about work ethic, and Jim genocides the whole country. It's just me sitting there going.
The thing is, Jim was the dad of that 18-year-old that you had to punch up at the airport with when you fucked him off the country. So Jim's a bit vengeful. Okay, I have a question. There was Jim did go away after that, but he did attempt a coup.
Yeah.
So he has been caught. You're safe. Nobody's hurt or anything. But I mean, we have him in prison. Like, what are we doing with him? I mean, he's
try and rehabilitate him.
He's not. No, he's fairly adamant. He is.
Well, just go. Listen, Jim. If you want to work with us, we'll work with you. If you want to sit here and sulk, and then just tell you, leaving someone like that who's angry with their own thoughts, they will eventually come good. Because, like, I do believe that everyone has the capacity to change. It's whether they want it or not. So if Jim wants to be a total prick, Jim can sit in a cell until he's dead. If he wants to play that, be like that, go with it. Like, but if Jim wants to work, I treat this in my real life. I'll work with anyone who wants to work. Yes. But if you don't want to do the work, and I don't mean physical work, I mean if you don't want to try and make a bit of definitive change and try and grow, then I've nothing for you, and I'll give you the option to be euthanized if you want to tap out.
Jesus. Okay, so he has the option. Okay, I'm going to ask two questions, right? And then I have one question and a final question. With Jim, Jim is a very popular man on the island. He's lovely. Fucking hates you for kicking his 18-year-old out. But people love him. So your advisors or whoever said, why don't you go onto the nightly news and have a kind of a Frost Nixon moment where you sit down with the journalist and they'll say, listen, or you have to talk about Jim Gate. People would like him released from prison. Yeah. You know, why aren't you? You know, a lot of people.
I would actually go into Jim's world, because I'd be like, what's Jim doing that I'm not? Jim is obviously doing something. Jim obviously has some charisma. Or is Jim going to do a Jonestown on this? Is Jim gaining popularity because he's a sound, decent, enigmatic, charismatic, decent human?
Or Jim's a great lover.
Or is Jim a prick who's bullying and manipulating people? And if it's the latter, Jim's going to jail. There's not going to be a
Jim is a great lover. He is a Casanova. He's a charming man.
Yeah.
That's why people love him.
If Jim is sound, and I need to learn a bit from Jim, and maybe I need to be a bit more flexible, I'd probably get Jim working for me.
Well, Jim wants to kill you. is what
But
I'm
then
saying.
Jim's not sound.
But he's sound to everyone else. Everyone else is a very satisfied lover of Jim.
Well, then Jim's got mental health issues that Jim needs to be treated.
Okay.
So I probably put Jim into some kind of mental psychiatric care. But Jim wasn't willing to do that. Then we probably have to disappear Jim.
Disappear him as in he's.
Well, I'll just say, listen, Jim, whatever your gripe is, if this can't be resolved, I said, like,
there's only one way to resolve it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna have a scrap with Jim. I'll just say, listen, the same as I said to Jim's son. Here, I'll give you a lift to the airport, pal.
In a fucking ambulance. Do you not think? Do you know why some people say
to
like
North Korea?
So you sent his son to North Korea?
No, but he'll learn a work ethic there.
No, but you
think your shit, Jim?
Do you go with the idea some people go with, like, let's say, okay, there's two guys, Danny and Kevin, they have an argument. You know what they need to do? They need to have a good scrap, and afterwards we can sit down, have a drink, and be like, we're done. Would you go along with that? That you're like, you and Jim just need to.
Yeah, I do get that. Like, yeah, but then I'm like, why would I put all this work in to have a fucking scrap with Jim? Do you get what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like,
to debase yourself like that.
Yeah, and then like if I beat the bollocks out of Jim, I'm a prick. If Jim beats the bollocks out of me, I'm a prick. There's no winning. Like, so it's also, this sounds very much like a Jim problem in my country. So
yeah, you don't have the aggressive.
This is a you problem, Jim. So I tell you what, how about you take that problem and we can put your problem somewhere else, and you can say, because Jim would be back within 48 hours. The cushy life Jim is living. So
you're sending him to Pyongyang? Is that it?
Man, I'd send Jim to Glasgow for 2 days to see how he got on. I'd send him to Hull. I'd send him.
What are you having to go at Hull?
I know, and I'll send him somewhere and go, if you think this is shit, Jim. If you think this is shit, I'd send him to Hull and I'd make him do jonglers in Hull, which is the roughest gig I've ever done in my life. And I'd make Jim do a set there. And then he'd go, oh, you're a prick. And I go, see, it's not that easy, Jim.
Okay.
It's not that easy being a comedian, and it's not that easy running a country.
Right. What's the name of it? I don't want to, Jonglers?
Yeah, it was an old comedy club chain that went into liquidation.
Right. Oh, I don't want to damn the place, but fucking hell. So Jim's son was sent to North Korea. Don't know what happened to that young man.
Yeah.
Jim is sent to Jonglers in Hull to perform, and you are sitting pretty. Okay.
Yeah. And then if they get back in touch, they want to come back. Go, yeah, Grant. But I'll say maybe you want to start your new lives elsewhere.
Oh well, the son is. We don't find out what happens to the son, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Jim does ring. Would you let Jim back if he was like fine?
Everyone deserves a second chance. Like, unless you're an absolute fucking wanker and there's no talking to you, but then just like fuck off. That's the end of it.
Fuck Jim. Actually, no. Jim's a prick. Yeah,
Jim's a prick. And sometimes in the world there is pricks. And you know what? It's better off that some people aren't around anymore. Yeah, like people are always like, I'm like, the world. Like, I know a few pricks in my life who've died. And the world's a better place with them gone. And that's just unfortunately a fact of life. I
don't like the people who... And I don't like people who are overly cynical, right? Yeah. Because fucking calm down. You know, who always take any story and go, oh, that's clearly fake or done for the news. You're like, just fucking enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I do prefer people who are more optimistic, but I don't like the people who are like everyone is lovely.
Everything no, be a realist.
If you go, oh, that guy's a bit of a prick. No, come on, he's not Hitler. And you're like, he didn't have to be Hitler. He's a prick.
Yeah.
Calm down. Jim is an arsehole. Relax.
Yeah,
I don't like those people.
I just give Jim I give Jim a chance to turn his life around. But there's a thing they do in Indonesia, and it's extremely brutal. That if you use drugs there and you've overdosed, they put they stopped doing it because it was against human rights and stuff, but they would put like a tattoo, like a little tattoo dot behind your ear. Okay, and basically 3 strikes and you're out. So if you get resuscitated from, say, a heroin overdose, they would put a dot, then they would put a second dot. But if you're found with 2 dots behind your ear, you don't get resuscitated.
Oh God.
3 strikes and you're out. Very brutal, very fair. I would treat Jim like that. I'd be like, Jim, I'll give you a couple of chances. But if you're still going to be a total and utter prick, you're not getting resuscitated. You're getting deported, pal.
You're not allowed back. You just have to be a stand-up comic somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I'd send them off and I'd just let them go. Well, go live somewhere else and see how you get on.
Would you give them any money?
The grass isn't always greener. Do you know what I mean?
Would you give them the money to start
I
off?
give him enough. I give him a fare so he wouldn't be destitute, but he'd have to go and start working for himself.
Yeah,
and
he's
doing
not living
it.
cushy for the rest
Maybe
of his
Jim
life.
would thrive. Maybe Jim would make it. Like, look, that's what happened to loads of Irish people all over the world. Maybe that's a kick up the arse, and maybe that would ultimately help Jim in the long run.
If so, I'll go to the final question where it is. You live, running this country. Country goes well, right?
Yeah,
At some point, you have to think about an heir, right? Who's going
yeah,
to take over? Now, the only limitation I'd put on this question is it can't be someone hypothetical. So you can't say, "Oh, I'd name my great grandson heir." Like it has to be someone living now. It can be anyone, but it has to be someone living
yeah,
now. It can be Jim if you want,
yeah.
or his son. But would you name someone, or would you like who
Yeah,
do
I
you
think
think
if I
you'd?
had like my group of advisors, if I didn't have any kids, I don't know if having kids. I mean, look at the state of the royal family for Christ's sake. It's just like the
Yeah, that's
pedophile protection scheme.
yeah. They don't
Um,
sweat.
yeah. Not non-sweating like that whole monarchy like makes me physically ill. I hate everything about it. It's like the class system in India. I'm never about anything like that.
Yeah,
But I would either, if I had someone working for me who was doing a class job and they had the same beliefs and ethos as me, I would probably pass the power on to them. You know,
Sinead's a great farmer. Yeah,
no, but yeah, but if someone's like a real decent person and you know that they're gonna do a good job, if you had a kid and then your kid could end up, hopefully I would raise the kid to be a sound like person who actually believes in the same morals as me. If
yeah.
they turn out to be a spoiled little prick, absolutely not.
And when they if you are announcing one of your advisors as the heir or anything, are you just going to live on the island as well, or are you like, no, I better leave because
Yeah, I think I'd live there and I'd probably have a few little islands and stuff off it to go have the crack on. But like,
private
I
islands?
yeah, well, not an Epstein one, but like if my country had like little,
I did
if
not mention.
I just meant in retirement sense. But
Okay.
if I had like little countries outside of my own country that were part of it, like Achill Island or anything like that, or Inishmore or
Oh,
Boston,
okay.
like that.
Yes, yes.
I'd be probably out there somewhere and then I'd tip back to the mainland to make sure everyone's all right.
Yeah, you have your own little there,
Yeah,
not exactly, but your own little kingdom away from
yeah,
your own
yeah.
little place, and yeah.
Sometimes it's good to just get away from people,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, so with Danalan gone, or with you gone from Danalan, and it's handy because I didn't need to call you an official title. Danny, thank you for roasting Ireland and Jim. And
Ireland. Listen, I find it therapeutic. Ireland needs a bit of roasting. Like it's we need a bit of proactive change in our nice little island.
as you said, you can be very proud of your country, but like you don't have to do it kind of the way the Americans do it, where we're the best at
Yeah.
everything and the world.
No,
No, you're like, no, we like Ireland. That's why we want it to be better.
exactly. Acknowledge the flaws, but also go, what can we do to make this a better place for everyone? Instead of going, oh, sure, there's no point. Sure, there's no point. The government.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Elect a different one then.
Yeah.
Vote, or for a start, vote.
Yeah.
Like at the very least.
Not in your country though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would hopefully be sound if you wouldn't need to do that, and if it wasn't, then I wasn't doing a good job. So
yeah. Off to Hull or Glasgow with you.
Yeah.
Danny, where do people find you online?
Just at the OB Comedy. You can get me on Instagram. My website is DannyO'BrienComedy.com. All my upcoming tour dates. I'm gonna announce a 2025 tour of my new show, which is called Kill It Danjaro. That'll be out next year. That's going to start in January. And I've got a few festivals and a few other bits and pieces between now and the end of the year. I'm in Ballycotton in a couple of weeks. Then I've Galway Comedy Festival next month. I'm in Asia in November. So I do loads of corporate stuff as well. I do loads of workshops with young people. I do loads of workshops for like tech companies. I do like private Christmas party events and like movie team night hosted by comedians. So I do tons of stuff. So that's all on my website, which is drumhilleventmanagement.com.
Awesome. By the way, I meant to ask this earlier. Do you know the way you went up Kilimanjaro?
I did.
You came back down.
I did.
Is it harder to come back down than go up?
It's definitely harder going up. Like once you summit it, you're on. It's 5 days up, 2 days down.
Oh, because nobody everyone always congratulates someone for going up like Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest, but nobody goes fair play for coming down. That must be
it can be a bit harder on the old knees coming down. So your legs are a bit banjacks, but you just kind of take your time,
Yeah. No,
the ascent was definitely harder than the descent.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, because I don't know if I've ever seen that maybe someone saying
It's
like,
it's
"Oh, you're
not it's
coming
not
down."
hard. Like it's
But you're
it's
also
not.
getting more air each time, right? So
Yeah. So
when
the
you're going
further you
down,
go
you're.
down, the more your oxygen goes up. So it's good.
What's that like to feel better?
You
Like
just
as you
feel
go down.
great. You're not knackered when you run for a pee. Like
Oh, sweet. That's. I can't wait to experience that someday.
yeah, that's hard.
Okay. Thanks everyone. By the way, would you have any last words of wisdom before you give over your rule of Danaland? What would be the last thing you'd say to people?
I don't know. I think I just give them a slow thumb and say it's been emotional.
A
They
lot
just
of Gen
pause.
Xers are going to be
Yeah, give
alarmed.
them a slow thumb emoji like in Top Gun, and then I just slowly walk into the sea like Point Break. Two references that are lost on both of them.
Completely lost on them. Yeah, that's good. Okay, all right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, man.